The world watches with bated breath as the conflict in Ukraine continues to unfold. This isn't just a regional conflict, it's a crisis that has sent ripples of uncertainty and fear across the globe. Imagine a peaceful nation suddenly thrown into chaos, its people caught in a crossfire not of their making. That's the stark reality in Ukraine, where a dispute with Russia escalated into a full-blown war. This conflict is about more than just territory. It's about principles, about the right of a nation to determine its own destiny. Russia's actions have been condemned by many world leaders, and the human cost of this war is immeasurable. Families have been torn apart, lives lost, and a sense of security shattered. The situation is complex, with a long and tangled history. It's a story of geopolitical power plays, historical grievances, and a struggle for influence. The international community has responded with sanctions against Russia and aid for Ukraine, but finding a path to peace remains a daunting challenge. The stakes are incredibly high, not just for Ukraine and Russia, but for the entire world. This conflict has the potential to escalate, drawing in other nations and sparking a wider conflict. The urgency of finding a peaceful resolution cannot be overstated. Amidst the turmoil, the United States, under the leadership of President Trump, has taken on the role of mediator, seeking to bring Russia and Ukraine to the negotiating table. It's a delicate dance, requiring a careful balance of diplomacy and firmness. Trump, known for his unconventional approach to foreign policy, has made it clear that he sees a peaceful resolution as the only viable option. Trump's envoy, Steve Witkoff, a businessman with experience in navigating complex negotiations, has been dispatched to the region to meet with Ukrainian officials. His mission is to explore possible avenues for peace and gauge the willingness of both sides to engage in meaningful dialogue. It's a high-stakes mission, with the hopes of millions resting on his shoulders. The U.S. has been a staunch supporter of Ukraine since the conflict began, providing both military and humanitarian aid. But Trump has also made it clear that he expects Ukraine to be a willing partner in the pursuit of peace. This has led to some tension, particularly after a contentious meeting between Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance, and Ukrainian President Zelensky. Trump's critics argue that his approach is too conciliatory towards Russia, and that he hasn't done enough to hold Putin accountable. His supporters, however, maintain that his willingness to engage with both sides is the best hope for achieving a lasting peace. Caught in the crosshairs of this geopolitical struggle is Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. He faces an unenviable dilemma: how to secure peace for his people while ensuring their safety and sovereignty. A ceasefire might seem like the obvious answer, a much-needed respite from the violence. But for Zelensky, it's not that simple. He carries the weight of history on his shoulders, the memory of past agreements broken, of ceasefires shattered by renewed aggression. Zelensky has seen firsthand the devastating consequences of trusting promises that proved empty. So while he expresses a willingness to negotiate, to find a path to a lasting peace, there's a wariness in his words, a skepticism born of bitter experience. He's proposed a partial ceasefire, a truce that would, at the very least, stop the long-range attacks targeting civilians and critical infrastructure. It's a plea for a humanitarian pause, a chance to rebuild shattered lives and tend to the wounded. But even this limited proposal has been met with resistance from Russia. Zelensky's broader peace plan outlines a phased approach, beginning with the release of prisoners, followed by truces in the air and at sea, contingent on Russia's cooperation. Each step is a careful calculation, a test of trust in a relationship fraught with suspicion. As diplomatic efforts continue, ordinary Ukrainians cling to a fragile hope. They yearn for an end to the fighting, for the chance to rebuild their lives and their nation. Families separated by war dream of reunions, of holding their loved ones close once more. The longing for peace is palpable, a collective desire that transcends language and borders. Meanwhile, Europe watches with a mixture of concern and a growing sense of responsibility. The conflict in Ukraine is not just a distant crisis, it's a stark reminder of the fragility of peace in Europe. European leaders, including UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer and French President Emmanuel Macron, are considering sending peacekeeping troops to Ukraine should a peace deal be reached. It's a delicate proposition, one that carries its own risks. The deployment of peacekeepers would require the consent of both Russia and Ukraine, a significant hurdle given the current state of relations. It would also require a clear mandate and a robust force capable of ensuring stability in a volatile region.